our last two speakers are Dr. Eric Rubenstein. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Epidemiology at Boston University. And we have Augusta Edward, who is a co-researcher in Eric's lab. She is also an employee at Giants. She's a dancer, artist, athlete, and we will hear from both of them. Thank you.
You on this side, yeah. Hi, everyone. I think we decided to have the biggest height difference present last. So we're presenting together to talk about our co-research team at Boston University. I like to call it Down Syndrome Research by the Experts because Gus and her compatriots with Down syndrome are the experts. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Eric Rubenstein. I'm an assistant professor in epidemiology at Boston University. So about 60% of my work time is scheduled to research. 50% of that is Down syndrome research. And then on the other sort of personal side, I do about 3 hours a week of Special Olympic coaching a week. So I'm at about 2.5 hours a day thinking about Down syndrome, right? Whereas someone like Gus, you know, a Giant employee, which I didn't realize until looking at my slides right before now that I'm sort of implying that she's a very large employee. But if you're not from around here, Giant is a supermarket in the area. She makes a Giant presence, but physically not a Giant. Sister, aunt, co-researcher, athlete, dancer, artist, and has Down syndrome all of the time. And I'll let her introduce herself more fully.
Okay. Come here?
Yep.
Oh. Let's see. My name is Gus Edward the First. I want to tell you a little about me. I live in Maryland with my sister Anna, my brother-in-law Jeff, and my two nephews, Kaylin and Braden. I work as a bagger at Giant, which is a grocery stores. A fun fact about me is that I used to play basketball with the Special Olympics. I also use to go bowling on Monday nights. I like to watch The Bachelorette. It is one of my favorite shows.
Good. So we both have our expertise in Down syndrome, but you know, Gus and I bring different perspectives. And really, who knows more about Down syndrome? And you know, it's a little simplistic to say that, right? You know, it's like saying that your doctor doesn't know as much about your kidney because it's in your body. We as scientists can know a lot about a lot of things, but I'll never know what it's like to be Gus. And she'll never know what it's like to be me. So we need to work together to sort of bridge that gap. The answer, though, is who knows more about Down syndrome is Gus, because Gus is the expert. I mean, Gus knows everything. So that kind of gets us to the point we're trying to make with our model and what we do in our lab and really include. So as a scientific field, we're overlooking the enormous resource of people with Down syndrome. So completely selfishly, they will make our research better because they have the lived experience that, speaking for those of us without Down syndrome, we don't have and we can't have. They have that expertise. They know what's important to themselves and their peers. They know how to communicate with their community. We talked a lot about that today, about communicating, reaching out to the community. How do we get people with Down syndrome to participate in our research? They know. They'll tell us. And really, a lot of out-of-the-box thinking and creativity. So many good ideas come from these folks. And then also, it's an issue of equity and why we need them on research teams. You know, as Annie just said, nothing about us without us. You know, if we're doing research on people with Down syndrome, they should have a say in what is going on. But we also sort of need to acknowledge in all this sort of the historic abuse, both in the scientific research world and sort of just in terms of the structures that make up this country and a lot of countries in the world. That there are inequities and disparities and ableism that are at the base of our culture, and we need to combat that. And part of that is by being as inclusive everywhere as we can. And then, right, there are a lot of jobs in academia. A lot of us here are making our living by taking money from the NIH. Why can't people with Down syndrome also work that way and get that research money? So what we do, we have an R01 from the Include to look at all of Medicaid and Medicare data. And we kind of, in putting this together, we sort of borrowed this phrase from Martin Luther King Jr., who actually probably didn't say this, but a budget is a moral document, right? We made sure to set aside the resources for what we thought was right, which was inclusive, equitable co-research. In our original grant, we said we were going to do an advisory board. But when we sort of started to put that together, we sort of realized the limitations, that there are some real strengths to an advisory board in that the advisory board can advise you on the research you're doing, but the flip side of that might be even more beneficial for us to use our scientific knowledge to advise the people with Down syndrome on the research they want to do. Also, something interesting about the advisory board model is that there are some interesting dynamics if you include a wide breadth of stakeholders. I mean, we like to think a lot about inclusivity, but sometimes it's nice to have a group of your peers with Down syndrome. It's kind of a nice sort of a Special Olympics model where this is their group and we're facilitating. It's not all about sort of all the different perspectives. So we use a co-research model. It's a branch of community-based participatory research. Here, individuals with conditions participate in all stages of the research as equal partners. Originally, I was like, oh, don't you all want to use my great, innovative Medicare and Medicaid data set? 130,000 people with Down syndrome, so cool. And they're like, no, that's not cool at all. We want to ask about mental health care and strategies for coping. And my data don't have that. So we did what they wanted to do, and it was extremely successful. It is sort of a newish approach, which is really sort of rooted in occupational therapy. At least that's who we borrow a lot from. So folks like Carla Astrow at UW-Madison, Ariel Schwartz at UNH, Jessica Kramer at University of Florida. And we started with a small pilot with Special Olympics Massachusetts, and then Gus was our first co-researcher, and will talk to us about her summer internships that she does for us every year. Okay, so page 2.
Yes, I want to tell you how I started doing research. I spent my summer in Boston with my brother, Ops, my sister-in-law, Vanessa, and my 2 nephews, Theo and Simon. Vanessa works at BU. I work on different projects for my internship, and my first project was about being healthy. I took pictures of healthy places at BU, healthy food like oranges and apples. I made a showcase of my pictures to share what I found. My second project was about mental health. I interviewed a wellness major about how students take care of their mental health. I learned how to do interviews and ask questions. Then I made a poster to share my project.
So this text that you can't possibly read is kind of our logic model that we have for this program. We're sort of working on an in-house evaluation at the moment. But sort of our goal at the end of the day is that persons with IDD, Down syndrome specifically here, will meaningfully engage and contribute to academic research about intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that is our goal. We have all of these steps. We've thought it through, and we're working to sort of continue this model. This is our team. There's 7 adults with Down syndrome from all over the country. I think 3 from California, 1 from Massachusetts, Goose is in Maryland, Stacy's in Utah, Kata is in Wisconsin. So we meet on Zoom because we're remote. And you'll get to meet a little bit of them here as we watch a video we put together of our greatest hits.
My name is Alexis Zakula. I'm a co-researcher at two jobs.
I'm an advocate, public speaker, actress, correspondent, and a valued employee.
Down syndrome means I have an extra chromosome in every cell in my body.
And that is to be who you are and don't be afraid to own it.
Co-research is a form of participatory research where individuals with lived experience in a particular field collaborate as equals with researchers in the research process.
Our co-research team's goal is to include people with Down syndrome in research, working together on health issues that affect our community. We use our knowledge and experiences to create research questions, analyze data, and share what we learn with others.
It is important for people with disabilities to be included on research teams because we have first-hand experience. We can communicate our successes and concerns to create a better understanding on issues. Being on the team also improved our abilities to self-advocate, gain independence, self-confidence, and to make us feel valued.
Co-researchers help with all stages of the research process.
Last year, our team studied the mental health of adults with Down syndrome through a survey about stress, anxiety, and we asked 70 people with Down syndrome to care of our mental health.
Self-care can look different for each person since we are all unique. But self-care can help us all manage our stress and give us more energy to do what it is that we want.
Okay, boys, go ahead.
A person you might talk to about your mental health. I'm not drunk.
Service says.
Doctor. Thank you. So that's a little overview of our whole team. I'm going, how do I go back? Okay. So what we've done training. So as I mentioned, we use Dr. Carla Osterow's Ready More curriculum, or we adapted it for our purposes. So that's an available resource. I think it's from a PCORI funding, so out there ready to use. And then also I mentioned this to some folks yesterday, but there's a new ethics training, which sort of is an equivalent for city training for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, developed by Dr. Ariel Schwartz and Katie McDonald at Syracuse. So we had our folks do this training. It's called Research Ethics for All, reforall.org. And just 2 or 3 weeks ago, the IRB approved that as a proxy for city training. So our folks are now fully on the IRB. So Gus will talk us through our mental health research project and current interview project. Yeah, go for
In 2022, I joined Eric's co-research team. We have 7 co-researchers on my team. Co-research includes the people meeting, study on the research team. We work together on research projects. We ask research questions, find answers, and share what we find on others. Last year, our team studied the mental health of adults with Down syndrome. How do people with Down syndrome take care of their mental health. We made an online survey. We asked people questions about their age, if they had a job, how often they feel stress or anxiety, or what coping skills they use. 45 people took our survey. More than 80% of them felt stress. Almost 60% said they felt anxiety. The most important takeaways are that people with Down syndrome can have mental health mental health issue just like everyone else. It is important to listen to us about our experience, including us in research. This year, we are doing an interview project to learn about independence from health professionals. To me, independence means having a voice, making decisions about my life. I have been practicing interviewing, and I'm looking forward to learning more about independence.
So Gus shared our results from our mental health survey that's currently under review in a peer-reviewed journal. We think it's really cool because, to our knowledge, I don't think anyone has ever just asked people with Down syndrome to complete a survey. I might be wrong. There might be people that have done that, but we're at least, I think, the first to have Down syndrome, people with Down syndrome ask other people with Down syndrome to complete a survey. Too far ahead. So kind of a goal of mine in the last year is to try not to accept too many speaking invitations that don't also include a co-researcher, right? Because they have just as much expertise and their findings are just as novel as I have. So in the last 2 years, we've done a Down Syndrome Day webinar. We did the NDSS Adult Summit, the Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress. We did Melodem, which was a Methods in Epidemiology for Dementia conference, and a ton of guest lectures at BU. So what's next for us besides this interview project that we are going to start talking to people soon? I'm hoping to turn this into a toolkit that we can bring to other folks and other labs and sort of not have us have to reinvent the wheel every time someone wants to incorporate people with Down syndrome on a research team. And part of that is the cost. So we're hoping to design a toolkit that, if you want to pay everyone fair wages, would be about $10,000 per year, which, when you account for the research assistant time that it takes to organize, we think it's fairly manageable. And again, part of that idea of budgets mattering. And we think that this will work for most types of include investigators or intellectual disability researchers. There really are so many ways and so many fields that this community and population can provide insights. Okay, finish this up.
Okay. Being on a research team is fun. I enjoy listening to what other people have to say. I learn a lot. I hope you like our talk. Thank you for listening.
Good stuff.